to tell us what brought you all together and the inspiration.
Absolutely. And first, I just want to thank, I think we have a few cast and crew in the audience. So if you worked on this film, can you please stand just so we can give you some credit? It really was an amazing journey coming together and putting this film, to make a film, a short film even, it takes a village. And I think we all kind of, at least for a lot of us doing this for the first time, realize that. But actually, the three of us met here at the Alcazar. And so we thought there's no better place for us to premiere the film than right here. We were in a theater production together, and then we started talking, and we said, we gotta do a film. And so me and Lindsay put our heads together. She is the owner of Aspiring Something Productions. And then we brought Dominique in, and we just kind of, we're the three producers, and we're like, I wrote the script. I actually had written it for a class way back in college at Westmont. And then I reworked it, expanded it, and then we just started pre-production for Twice Lost.
It probably would behoove us all if you just take a moment and introduce yourselves. How about, we'll start with Dominique.
Hi everyone, I'm Dominique Loftus. I was the assistant director. I helped produce and I was the editor.
I'm Sam Spore. I was the writer, director, as well as a producer on the film.
I'm Lindsay Maxitopoulos. I was one of the producers and I was Katie in the film.
I'm Jeremiah. I was Trevor.
So Sam, the writer, what inspired you to pursue this particular theme?
Yeah, well, it was an evolving process for sure. So when I came up with the initial concept, frankly, I just wanted to write something interesting. I had seen, obviously, this is a theme that we all can relate to in some capacity, right? We've seen hurt and loss in relationships, whether we've experienced it ourselves or just around us. And so I think it was a relatable theme, but really the real meaning came out the second time I wrote it, and really emphasizing themes of forgiveness. So for instance, one of the main themes of the film is Trevor, the reason he realizes Katie's gone in the end is because that's when he realizes that she has forgiven him, or at least in his mind, he's realized this theme. And so that's what frees him. And so for me, as a Christian, that is the truest thing about me, is that forgiveness frees me. It's the truest thing about me. And so I wanted to kind of show that theme, but also the theme of hope. It's a sad ending that he's kind of stuck in this realization, but also it's hopeful because he can move on and he can heal. And it's this long journey ahead of him of healing. But so I think as I wrote, the themes kind of just begin to layer themselves in. And I remember talking to Jeremiah, and he brought out themes about Trevor that I had not even thought of, right? And so that's the cool thing about the collaborative process of filmmaking and viewing it. It's, all of you have, you'll take something different away from it, and I think that's so powerful and so important.
So walk us through the genesis of this project. So you had an idea, and did you storyboard? Was Lindsay an immediate producing partner? Did that evolve?
Yeah, so initially I had the story idea. Carpinteria was in talks of doing a film festival, so we thought we're gonna do a 48-hour guerrilla shoot, and we're just gonna get something on the books.
With iPhones.
With iPhones, like we were just gonna do it, because the deadline was like in 2 days or whatever. And so I wrote the scripts in 24 hours, and then I talked to Lindsay, because she wanted to produce something, asked me to write, and then a couple days later, when the deadline got extended, we invited Dominique on board to really build out this project, because we all three saw the beauty of the script. And then Dominique really, really helped me with the script. We sat in Sunburst every Wednesday or Tuesday, whatever it was.
Lots of wine.
Lots of wine. And she would grill me. Everything that was written in the script, why does he say that? Why does she say that? She's like, you need to have a reason for this, Sam. Every line needs to have a reason. I am so grateful, and I told her, I said, every script I write, I'll take you out to wine.
She was the same on set. It was the same on set too. Dawn was the same on set, and it was great.
And Lindsay, you have a production company?
Yeah, so I started my production company 4 years ago, Aspiring Something Productions, and so I primarily right now do like client commercials and weddings, which I love to do. However, this is a really fun project and I love doing creative narratives, and I used to live in Nashville and had a lot of opportunities to do that, but with COVID, kind of changed things up. And so we were all kind of just talking to each other while we were doing, the theater production, and it turned out Dom went to Lipscomb and studied filmmaking, and I studied video production in Nashville, and we didn't even know each other. And then Sam had studied writing, and so it was kind of just this like perfect storm. And then we're like, we need to get some filmmaking going.
And how did you find Jeremiah?
So Jeremiah, I actually ran into him with just a mutual friend of ours, and it was kind of one of those things where I literally talked to him for 2 minutes, and then 6 months down the road, we were looking for an actor, and we were kind of scrounging last minute to find someone like local, and so then I texted him, and I was like, because I had talked to him in 6 months, right? I'm like, wait, I have this guy's number, like in my phone, and he said he's an actor, so I texted him, and he sent back like 10 minutes worth of voice memos on this character, and I'm like, this is a 18-page script. Like, how do you have that much out of this character? But he really understood Trevor at a deeper level than I did, and so it just was, honestly, it was just like providence. Like he was Trevor from the moment he read the script.
Things just fell into place. Well, record-breaking speed that you were able to get this. I mean, the shoot must have been fast and furious, but here you are.
Yeah. 3 days.
All thanks to Dominique, kept us on track.
It was
Our hardworking cast and crew.
How many, 21, it was 21 different scenes that we had to piece together in 3 days, which every time you pick up and move a location, it's
7 a.m. to about 11 p.m. every night,
Yeah.
not longer, and then clean up and.
Yeah, and this was completely self-funded as well. So everyone's help on this set was pretty much volunteers, and so it was just driven by passion and this community who allowed us to use their spaces and sponsored with good food. And so we're just really grateful, because this would have been tens of thousands of dollars if it was done with a budget.
Well, that's the power of collaboration. What kind of feedback or reactions are you hoping to elicit with this film, especially around that subject of destigmatizing shame and guilt? And you had mentioned earlier forgiveness.
Yeah, I know Jeremiah and Lindsay can speak to this as well. For me, film's an interesting thing because you can't expect a certain reaction because everyone's going to react differently to it. For me, I think I just want people to kind of sit with it, and I think that's why it kind of ends heavy, right? It's not this happy, hopeful ending. You're kind of confused by it. You're like, wait, what just happened? What did I just watch? And I think as we talked about it, as we were kind of, producing it, it was just one of those things. We want people to understand that healing from shame and guilt and just the process of healing in general, it's a process. It's not this instantaneous thing. And it can be a journey and it can be hard, but there's people that can come around and love can get us through it. And yeah, I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that from the actor's perspective.
Yeah, I think I would speak probably as I really only can, other than experiencing these great people, but to what I experienced in trying to bring Trevor to life. And I just, from an early reading, felt that Trevor was so isolated. And I think that all humans want to be part of a love that lasts, a love that lasts forever. And I think we know that we get let down by the people closest to us. I mean, they're imperfect, and life is imperfect, and there are poor choices. And Trevor made multiple poor choices. But what's interesting is that we don't even really need to spell it out. He didn't need to spell it out too much, but Trevor was on his own. I mean, he had no community. He doesn't ever speak about anyone in his life speaking into him. He doesn't ever speak to her about their relationship, really. He's almost just left the relationship, abandoned her, abandoned his promise, and then he's kind of wanting it back, but not sure why, just because he lost it. And so I can go on a lot of rabbit trails about that. And it was interesting in my life of feeling isolated in some things and wanting to pull away from some things and then getting involved in this project with great people. But I think it was really interesting to just be reminded that you really do need great relationships in your life. And I think that's part of how you destigmatize most anything. It's just having people that will look you in the eye and give you tough love, but will give you tenderness, will give you care, will give you honesty, will give you, how go down the list, all the fruits of the Spirit, the fruit of the Spirit, but yeah, all the theological. I just found that difficult in some ways and fun in some ways, because the set was great, the team was amazing, and yet I felt like I had to act as if I was alone, you know? Is that interesting?
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Lindsay, anything to add?
Yeah, so when Sam wrote this script, I was actually going kind of through a personal thing, just like Katie's character. So right off the bat, I explained to Sam that I was like, I really feel tied to this character and I feel her pain. And I think a lot of people have gone through infidelity, and during this film, I had just gone out of a relationship, and the process of being on set and getting to act in a safe environment was really healing, and just feeling those feelings, and then forgiveness, because hurt people at the end of the day. And the power of like creating this was like, wow, you know, sometimes you just have to feel your feelings. I can't remember the question, but that's what I had to say.
Actually, the next question I was going to ask was, did you have to dig deep or draw from your own experiences, or did you do some research on mental health to be able to really tell the story of this mental health journey?
Yeah, I did. I'm sure y'all did too. I know I did for sure. I think my parents are divorced, and I thought about that a lot. And I've had my heart broken. I thought about that a lot. I'm sure I've broken hearts. What is that? There's a song that says, how many hearts have I broken, and are they still breaking? You know that line? Anyways, Need to Breathe, I think. But yeah, I felt that I did want to read up on, it's a strange thing to try and be emotional on camera, to try and cry, and I try to think about how I cry and what I would act like. And it's funny because you actually don't want to think about how you act, you just want to engage. But it'd be much easier in some sense if I'm looking Lindsay in the eye on camera and or on set and feeling something and being emotional. But when you're having to do it on your own, which I think is where in real life, we cry a lot. And I don't know about you guys, but when I've cried, it's not the same every time. You know, it's sometimes it's nasty, sometimes it's just empty in the sense of you feel no energy left. You know, and you're just dead. There's no real strength behind it, and then you can have wailing, and I don't know. That was an interesting thing to look into. I don't know if it directly answers your question in the sense of research and Google, but I did have to look inside myself and address feelings and how I may be in my life, more so than portray them, probably more how I hide them, you know, which is probably not the healthiest thing, but for sure, I don't know, I think a lot of men do that. We go into the James Bond stage of just like, yeah, no one understands and no one cares, and I'm gonna go save the world.
Yeah, and I think for me it was, what I really dug into was, I think I'm blanking on the term, but I think I have it right, dissonance, just the cognitive dissonance that Trevor has of believing Katie's there the whole time, right? And I think as the director, trying to figure out how do I show that on film, and you know, maybe some of you were like, wait, she's dead at the end? Like, wait, what? But I think it's a delicate balance, because you don't want to give it away right at the very beginning, but you also need the audience to kind of understand by the end and accept the fact that she's never been there. And so I think kind of looking into that as I'm writing Trevor specifically, how is he interacting? And of course, you know, this is an extreme example. This is not going to be your everyday case that you see, if at all. but it's painted a bigger picture of, you know, he's feeling trapped and isolated in this world that he's made his own. So yeah, I think kind of digging into that theme of how would someone really react in those ways, how would they view the world around them, that was an interesting thing to kind of think about.
Yeah, there's a lot of vulnerability involved in acting and in writing. And then you've got Dom, she's doing checks and balances to make sure it all makes sense.
I mean, even as an editor, we had a lot of conversations in the editing room of, you know, where do we stay on
Where do we
Jeremiah?
show the emotion? Where do we show the dialogue? And just working around kind of the footage we had gotten, and at the end of the day, it was our first time shooting all together, and there was some scenes that were like, we wish we had coverage on that, we wish we would have gotten that dialogue. Yeah, and I think I'll just add on a personal note, I think it's so interesting we all approach this project from such different angles. I know for myself, like I was going through a time where I was battling a lot of loneliness, and even though I was more on like the organizational side, that was the way I connected to this story of just seeing these two characters battle in their own ways, loneliness and how they were choosing to go about that, and the decisions they were making and kind of where it brought them. And so it's incredible kind of what creative work and especially film will tap into that in so many different ways. And I'm sure if we asked all of you, you would have a different story for every person of how it touched your heart. And so I think that's just the power of film and art.
Couldn't agree more. So now you've done this, so you're seasoned. So what advice would you give to young or aspiring filmmakers and artists that live in small towns like this, like Carpinteria, and how would you talk to somebody who wants to pursue their passion in film?
I would say just go and create and get a group of people, or if you're a painter or whatever, just use the resources that you have, because you can literally make a film with an iPhone. And also create a deadline for yourself. We just did the 48-hour screenplay thing, and like sometimes as artists, or you know, whatever your hobby is, it's like, you know, you keep postponing and it's like, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, okay, like 3 months, and then like you're 99 on your deathbed and you're like, oh shoot, I didn't do that thing. So so I would just say, like, create a deadline and just like do it, and it's nice when you have people that hold you accountable too.
Yeah, I would say, you know, we talk about like, oh, a small town in Carpinteria. Well, Carpinteria in Santa Barbara in general is filled with talent, and I find that the more places I go, everywhere is filled with talent, and there's always someone, if you just tap on their shoulder and say, hey, like, what do you like to do? And they're gonna have a skill that's gonna complement the skill you're trying to work on. So just get out there and do it. And I think we live in a society where everyone wants to monetize their gifts and skills. Like, oh, I can't do that if I don't make money for it. And like, I mean, we all felt that putting our own money in, knowing we weren't gonna get money on this film.
Lots of it.
But the process,
We've made about $30.
and a whole lot of good memories. But I think the process of creating is so incredibly beneficial and therapeutic, and it looks different for everyone. It even, I think, looks different for like athletes, artists. Like, it is so good for the soul though, and I just think we can't forget about just the sense of creating for creating. And like, this is a huge love letter to Carpinteria, and that was a huge personal thing for me. I mean, we all met at the Alcazar, so huge shout out to this amazing community, which a lot of people came to support us. We weren't even involved with this film, but we know the community. And I even think like that was a huge passion of mine, and like, take where you're at. If you know you're not in LA, you're in Carp, like, there's beauty here, and that was, I was so brought alive by shooting like all the beautiful, like Murphy's Vinyl Shack, and we got to shoot on the bluffs and Sunburst. Like, wherever you are, there is beauty, and it's so fun capturing that beauty, especially if it's personal to you. So I would say, like, just take what you have and run with it, similar to what Lindsay was saying.
Yeah, I would say two things. One, I would say that I would work really hard not to judge the outcome of what you create. Just give it a full effort. That's kind of what you judge. Just did you do it as well as you could, and just try to do that, complete it like she said, and go to the next thing. And the second thing, I think that works as well for the first thing, but I love sports analogies. It's just a lot of my background, but you got to find a good team. You know, I think most everyone who worked it, I know, I would call them friends now. And I didn't think about that going into it, is why I use the word think. But yeah, it's just wonderful to find people that, yeah, in sports you have to learn that the team doesn't revolve around you. It's a good thing to learn when you're really young. And so it's fun to, in the creative process, apply that. Like, okay, what is everybody's role? How can I do my best effort here, do a full effort here to contribute and help everyone else do what they're doing? And then you get to know everybody along the way. And, you know, certain times you need a kick in the butt, or certain times you need a pat on the back. And that's part of how teamwork, relationships work, and you can actually finish something. Yeah.
I'll just add one thing. Lean into your fear. For me, I was terrified to write something in a formatted way that's like officially, you know, in the screen play format, and then directing something that I've never done before. I'm on set, like looking at our DP, looking at Dom, looking at our AC, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, wait, camera rolling, lights, what? Lights? What? Camera action? I don't know. So, you know, just lean into the fear, because especially, you know, as we're talking about community, that's huge, because set was such a great experience. The team was so strong that we kept saying, and actually I'm glad I thought of this, we kept saying when we started this, we wanted this to be a playground for our passions. We weren't afraid of failure. We weren't afraid. We knew this wasn't going to be like, you know, Oscar worthy, but we were going to shoot for that, right? We were going to shoot for this to be the best thing that it could be in the capacity and the skill set that we had. And we learned so much through that, you know, if we made this film today, it would be completely different. So just lean into that fear and do it. If you have that thing itching in you, go do it.
Yeah. That is a really good endorsement of just following your bliss. Good for you. Okay, team, so what's next in the queue? What projects do you have coming up?
So, we didn't have enough fun last year, so we're going to do it again. So we're in pre-production for a short comedy, and it's going to be filmed here in Carpinteria. And I wrote it this time around, and Sam is going to be producing it. Sadly, Dominique now lives in New York, so that's disappointing. But
happily for Dom.
Maybe if we raise some funds, we can fly her out. And then Jeremiah lives in Nashville, so he's a little out of our budget too. But yeah, we're really excited, and if you want to be a part of it, we do need extras or some extra hands on set if you're passionate about filmmaking. We're also taking sponsors, and we're doing like promotional videos if you have like a business or something. So it's a cool sponsorship opportunity thing. You can email me at lindsay@aspiringsomething.com if you're interested.
Fantastic, and I think the Carpinteria Women's Club is on board as a sponsor.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, for me, I am helping Lindsay produce that, and then I'm also working on a feature script, which just feels like the death of me sometimes, but it's actually a political thriller, so if you want to buy a script, let me know.
I'll jump on the screenwriting bandwagon here too. Speaking of leaning into fear, I am writing a very personal piece about my best friend who passed away from cancer in January. And her mom is actually here supporting me tonight. And so many people in this room, she was special to them too. So another way we're creating a therapeutic for your mental health. That has been a huge part for kind of processing those emotions. And I just feel honored to like be able to even bring a piece of her story to life. So I'm gonna be writing that and probably filming it in the next year or two. We're gonna see. It takes a while, but getting there.
What's next for you, Jeremiah?
I think the short answer is I don't know. The long answer, it does relate, I guess, tonight, is I do help with a company out of Nashville. Well, we're all around the country, but it's called Pivotal Moments Media, and we're basically trying to help sports teams, corporations. We work with school districts, and we try to give resources for people that might be struggling with mental health, but also to give tools to people to be able to, through storytelling, which is really fun, be able to just instill mental strength. So my arm in that is getting to be sort of this soccer guy, which is kind of fun. I get to work with kids, and I've to the full effort thing. Part of what I'm trying to do, which is so bizarre, but I really like soccer gear and cleats and all this stuff, and so I like to do these little characters, and I review
I hope you can find an audience for this. Niche, a real niche thing. Speaking of which, you have a really appreciative audience here, and your story is just inspiring. You guys are doing something really special, and I know with productions like this, you need appreciative audiences, but you also need patrons, and so probably a good something to think about if you know folks with resources. I'm sure Lindsay would probably love to take them out to coffee and talk a little bit more. But I want to thank you all for being here. We're going to bring up panel B, which is our mental health professionals, to kind of help us unpack some of this.